President Trump posting 14 minutes ago on Truth Social, Israel, do not drop those bombs. If you do, it is a major violation. Bring your pilots home now. Donald J. Trump, President of the United States. So the 12-day war, as it was dubbed yesterday by Donald Trump in the ceasefire announcement between Israel and Iran, may have to be renamed at least the 13-day war. I hope we don't have to go to 14. I don't want to have Parlay Van Sickle sitting over under on if we're going to be at a 19-and-a-half-day war. You taking the over or the under there, Mark?
I don't like it. I'd probably take the over just because it's tough for us to finish their war. I guess.
I understand that. I understand. And you know what? You've hit a parlay or two. You understand how this works. The over. Life's too short to bet the under, man.
That's
Over's
true.
probably the play here. But the reality is, yesterday we were sitting here about 12 hours ago, and the president was celebrating, as he should, a ceasefire between Iran and Israel. And it looked like, at least for the time being, we were going to enter a much more peaceful phase in the Middle East. The president put up on Truth Social early this morning at about 1 a.m., the ceasefire is now in effect. Please do not violate it. Donald J. Trump. My wife and I actually said that to each other, too, at about 1 a.m. when the baby was done screaming. The ceasefire is now in effect. And then we high-fived and fell back asleep. And then we figured, well, we hope it's in effect until at least 4 a.m., give or take. And it was. I can't speak to what happened after that. But, we have pretty short ceasefires in our homes as well these days, it seems like. But anyway, you now have a situation where the president is sharing that he is not happy with Iran, but he's also not thrilled with Israel right now. Trump wants an off-ramp here. For those who were insistent that Trump was somehow creeping America into a Middle East conflict and a Middle East war, his reaction this morning is making it very clear that he has no interest in that. He's not happy with Iran. And he's not happy with Israel. That is the headline right now on Fox News with their breaking news Fox News alert at the bottom of the screen. So Trump is not sitting here simping for Israel or Netanyahu at this moment. He's not doing that. Okay, so you've got these two sides who he wants to get to the table. He wants peace as much as you can get peace in that part of the world. And I think he's also right to note that he's not happy with Israel. He's right to note that at this point in time. Okay, it does take two to tango. He has done what Israel has largely asked him to do. That also, yes, I've long believed, is in America's interests. But he's got to make sure that Iran feels, not necessarily does, but feels like it's getting listened to just a hair. Now, I know these guys are terrorists. I know they scream death to America, but Trump is the ultimate deal maker here. And any deal that you put together, right, in life, in business, doesn't matter. You got to make it feel like both sides are getting something here. And that's where Trump's deal-making skills actually can be a huge benefit in a moment like this. Now, we all know that the ceasefire was going to be a big benefit to Israel. Iran was largely out of weaponry, at least any serious weaponry. We saw, a dozen missiles getting intercepted in the last 18 hours or so as they wink, wink, nod, nod told the U.S., hey, we're going to, launch these missiles. Heads up, guys. And it was just to basically save face back in Iran through their state-run media. So, we know what the game was for Iran, and Trump largely said, sure, do what you got to do. All right, and then let's get this thing over with. He wants to make them feel like they're getting something here, not because he has any real respect for the leadership. Leadership wants us all dead for the most part, right? But he wants it to basically calm the entire situation down. And this is something that J.D. Vance, vice president, noted last night on Fox News with Brett Baer.
I encourage my fellow Americans to think about here is that a week ago, the Iranians were quite close to achieving a nuclear weapon. Now they cannot build a nuclear weapon. That is the biggest testament to the president's leadership and to the success of our mission. In 1 week, without, thank God so far, not losing a single American casualty, we have taken what was a threatening nuclear program that could have destabilized the entire world. Now that program is gone. We did it through effective presidential leadership and also some very, very competent work from our troops.
So when we went to bed last night, we assumed that the ceasefire was in place and that basically we were going to enter somewhat more of a stabilizing, at least few days, few weeks, dare I say few months, who knows. But we could not even get a few hours into some type of a ceasefire. So now we sit here as the president is about to get on Air Force One. He's at Joint Base Andrews right now. It's just after 7 o'clock Eastern time. Of course, it's 6:10 here in Kansas City. And the president is saying to both sides, calm down, knock it off. Let's get back to the ceasefire that we all agreed to yesterday. Because Trump also knows politically he can't get into this thing for a drawn-out period of time. The political angle is secondary to, obviously, the security and the safety of the American people and, obviously, our allies in that region. But politically, he does not. I really don't believe, and this morning's reaction by the president confirms this, he does not want to put himself in a situation where he gets entangled in this thing in this part of the world for an extended period of time. Because it takes him away. It takes his energies, his efforts, and his mind off of a lot of the other things that obviously have to be achieved back here in the United States. Are we safer today than a week ago? Absolutely. There is no doubt about that in my mind. Have we made progress from a week ago? Yes. No question about it. That being said, clearly, this is always going to be more of a complex song and dance than a lot of us ever want it to be. But, Trump does hold a lot of the cards here, right? Iran understands what we can do to them in a moment's notice. After what happened on Saturday, courtesy of the men and women coming out of Whiteman Air Force Base here in Missouri. And Israel has got to also understand here in all this that we hold a lot of the cards in terms of helping them. We are obviously their most important and biggest ally in everything that they're trying to achieve. And also, as far as we can tell, based on all the reporting, we have done in large part what Israel has asked as a key ally. So now, Bibi can't go rogue on Trump. Trump has clearly said to both sides here, knock it off. Also, the headline right now from Fox, Trump says Israel and Iran don't know what they're doing. So as soon as we can get our hands on this audio, the president just speaking here in the last couple of minutes, we will get it to you on 95.7 FM KCMO. And we are streaming, as always, as we kick it off on what is set to be another busy news day on the KCMO Talk Radio app. 913-4087-95.7 is how you join us. Breaking news as we get it going this morning. If you missed it in the overnight hours, Israel is vowing a strong response after accusing Iran of a ceasefire breach just hours after the president announced that ceasefire. So there were bombs launched from Iran into Israel once again, and there are reports of up to 4 people who have been killed in those attacks. So we will continue to keep an eye out for that story, obviously, this morning here on KCMO Talk Radio. Meantime, we also had some tragedy here in Kansas City over the weekend. And some of our leaders held a press conference yesterday on that. What came out of it? What is their response? How are they going to handle it? We'll answer those questions coming up on 95.7 FM KCMO. Let's just jump into Mike Tobin here, Fox News. He is live in Israel after the ceasefire was allegedly broken by both sides. The president saying that he's not happy with Iran or Israel right now. Mike Tobin reporting live in Israel on Fox News. Let's jump into it.
Fair. I think Israel's
did they just cut away? They just cut away from him. Just cut away from Mike Tobin. Dang it, he was only on for a hot minute. That's all right. I love you, Lawrence Jones, but I'm not cutting to you right now. Sorry there, big fella. Not doing it. So that's the breaking news that we're monitoring. By the way, one of my best friends growing up is named Mike Tobin. So every time, I see this guy on TV, I send him a picture. Different Mike Tobin. Trust me, they have nothing in common. My buddy's not going to be overseas in Israel reporting on, world affairs. Great guy, but that's not him. But every time I see him, I'm like, oh, there's Mike Tobin. There you go. Very well done.
I will say another guy, Trey Yangst, overnight was covering things as he always does.
Yeah.
Very well.
Trey does a tremendous job for Fox Overseas. So those two guys, two of their top reporters there. If they do cut back to either of them, we'll bring it to you here on KCMO Talk Radio because the breaking news less than 12 hours after President Trump announces a ceasefire between Israel and Iran, you have both sides now getting in the president's crosshairs because of strikes that were issued during the overnight hours. So Trump is not happy with either side as he just hopped on Air Force One moments ago. We'll keep you posted on that this morning on KCMO. In the meantime, you had leadership in Kansas City yesterday who held a press conference at 35th and Prospect. You had overall a very violent weekend across Kansas City. 6 people killed, 5 others hurt, and families were mourning, and community leaders were saying enough is enough. Well, the city's trying to figure out what to do about this. This comes just days after the city was bragging about the fact that homicides in the Jackson County portion of Kansas City, Missouri, were down about 8% from this time last year. And that's obviously a welcome sight. But overall in Kansas City, let's just give you the numbers. Kansas City right now has 78 homicides year to date. That means January 1st through yesterday, June 23rd, there have been 78 homicides in Kansas City, Missouri. That is the second highest number for any year in the last 5 years. It's up from 69 1 year ago, so 9 ahead of where we were last year. And it's ahead of 2022 and 2021. The only number that it trails was 2023 when this city set a record with 182 homicides. So a very violent weekend. And Melissa Johnson, who is the Jackson County prosecutor, she just got on the job this year. She won her election, took over from Gene Peters Baker, who was a disaster of a prosecutor here in Jackson County. And Melissa Johnson, who lives in that part of town, was pretty emotional yesterday speaking at the podium.
These babies that are picking up trash every single day have to watch what I call Club 35th and Prospect right here outside of Big D's Liquor. Grown men sitting on milk cartons, gambling, smoking, doing drugs in the open air.
So I appreciate her passion. And she will be on the show in about an hour and a half at 7:50. She'll be here on KCMO. And I respect the fact that she's willing to basically just put herself out there and be emotional about it and make the case. But on the back end, when I hear her talk about Big D's Liquor, it's got to be some liquor store, by the way. And the guys outside of Big D's sitting there smoking, drinking, doing drugs in the open air. I'm like, okay, well, that's illegal. Are we going to do anything about that before we have to hear about, these locations ending up as obviously places where homicide victims are being transported to hospitals and things of that nature? Like, there obviously are laws against this. And that's where now Quentin Lucas wants to take some of this. The mayor of Kansas City also speaking yesterday and saying they're going to take a firmer approach on some of the businesses that may be violating the law here.
If you are harboring criminal activity again and again, and if you have been cited by codes enforcement, if we need to, we will shut you down.
Okay. Well, I mean, listen, I'm not saying that the businesses are in the right here, but here's the problem for the city, and not so much Melissa Johnson. She just got on the job. But the city as a whole, city leadership, they still cannot do what needs to be done, and that is point the finger at the criminals. I mean, yesterday, if you listen to any of this press conference, you heard a lot about, hey, the businesses got to step up, our business community, what does our city need to do? How about we take a no BS approach against the largely men, so I'll say it, the men in the urban core who are committing these heinous acts of violence, who are terrorizing these communities. Can the business step up a little bit? Sure. Okay. They closed their doors. They could probably do a bit of a better job. But I'm not sure. In fact, I know I would not have, if I was the mayor of this town, spent yesterday ragging on the business owner. Because for too long, for going on half a decade now, what we've done is we've been way too soft in how we approach the worst actors in this city. We've found every excuse for why they just can't get ahead, why they're committing crimes. We don't, in statements that you read from city leadership, we don't even say, hey, these are the thugs who are terrorizing Kansas City. We say, oh, that's, continuing gun violence in Kansas City. See, that's a very sneaky phrase to use. Because when you say we can't deal with the gun violence anymore in Kansas City, it doesn't put the onus on any one person. It makes it seem like it's just these guns that keep going off around Kansas City and nobody's held responsible for it. And that's not how this goes, not how it's supposed to operate. So I'm okay to an extent with the businesses being held somewhat accountable. After city leadership says we are going to do everything in our power to make sure that those people terrorizing these urban communities are going to be held accountable and taken off the streets, John.
You can't turn the Queen Mary on a dime, right? Mm-hmm. This is a residual effect still from JPB. I'm going to give credit to Melissa Johnson, and I've been saying it here. She's like, again, my news stories, we've had something over the weekend. We've got at least charges filed within 2 or 3 business days, and that announced. So she's doing what she can, but it's going to take a while to stop the rot.
I'm with you, man. And she will be here at 7:50 this morning. Do not miss it on KCMO. Coming up, we will hear from the President of the United States and what he said before he got on Air Force One as the Israel-Iran conflict continues on. Well, the President of the United States is not a happy man this morning as he left early this morning for the Netherlands, where he is going to attend the NATO summit. But in the overnight hours, after he announced a ceasefire between Israel and Iran, in the early evening hours yesterday, we now know that both sides basically broke the ceasefire. Now, of course, they're pointing the finger at each other, but President Trump doesn't much care. And in fact, he's having none of it right now. President Trump walked out of the White House this morning before getting set to fly to the Netherlands, and he blasted Iran and Israel, and he dropped an F-bomb to the press this morning. We have the audio here live on KCMO Talk Radio, and Mark, you got this one all taken care of, buddy? You got the bleep in there? All right, here we go.
Iran violated the peace agreement and the ceasefire agreement. Do you believe that Iran is still committed to peace?
Yeah, I do. They violated it, but Israel violated it too. Israel, as soon as we made the deal, they came out and they dropped a load of bombs, the likes of which I've never seen before. The biggest load that we've seen. I'm not happy with Israel. You know, when I say, okay, now you have 12 hours, you don't go out in the first hour and just drop everything you have on them. So I'm not happy with them. I'm not happy with Iran either. But I'm really unhappy if Israel's going out this morning because the one rocket that didn't land, that was shot, perhaps by mistake, that didn't land. I'm not happy about that. You know what? We basically have 2 countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing. Do you understand that?
That was the President of the United States within the last 30 minutes. That one has not made it onto Fox News yet. Something tells me it won't. But I found that on C-SPAN, of course, they're rolling on this stuff all day. And C-SPAN had it right there. These 2 countries, to use the word of the President of the United States, so I can't use the word, But Mark's going to be hitting the dump button on me here. We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard, they don't know what the bleep they're doing. That is the President of the United States. That's why this guy, in part, has won 2 terms to the White House. Because he speaks like regular people would at a bar, in the workplace, on the radio, when you can be FCC compliant, and he's not wrong. And here's the other part of this, too, for Trump. Last night, obviously, he's being crowned as the peacemaker. He's being crowned as the hero in all this, right? Well, now he's not just ticked off because the bombing continues on both sides. He's also ticked off, I'm guessing, because he feels more so by Bibi Netanyahu that he got fleeced a little bit here. He doesn't like to look like somebody who got screwed on the world stage, and that's got to be part of how he's feeling right now. And he has a right to feel that way because he largely has been in Israel's corner every step of the way as a key ally. He has risked a portion of his base in the process of doing it. He pulls off this incredible mission as the commander-in-chief, and of course, thanks to our men and women here at Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri, he pulls off this incredible mission over the weekend with the B-2 bombers. And then he says, we've got a ceasefire. Both sides have agreed. We're good. 12-day war is over. Let's get some peace here and let's get back to business. And then overnight, of course, both sides end up firing missiles at each other. And he doesn't want to feel and look like a fool. Just as much as he's upset about what it means when it comes to Middle East ramifications, he does not want to look like a sucker. And I think there's got to be a part of him this morning that feels that way. Now, the president also had this to say this morning before he got on Air Force One and left for the Netherlands. Here was President Trump reacting to the ceasefire apparently being broken by both sides, Israel and Iran, hours after the ceasefire was agreed to.
I don't think so, but I'm not happy that Israel's going out now. There was one rocket that I guess was fired overboard. It was after the time limit, and it missed its target. And now Israel's going out. These guys got to calm down. It's ridiculous.
How will you respond if the ceasefire is fired?
I didn't like plenty of things I saw yesterday. I didn't like the fact that Israel unloaded right after we made the deal. They didn't have to unload. And I didn't like the fact that the retaliation was very strong. But in all fairness, Israel unloaded a lot. And now I hear Israel just went out because they felt it was violated by one rocket that didn't land anywhere. That's not what we want, I'll tell you. And I'm telling you, I'm not happy about that, Israel, either.
Well, good for President Trump. He is not happy with either side right now. And he has absolutely a right to feel that way. Now, for those on the right who claim that Trump is just basically a puppet for Netanyahu, well, that's certainly something that they're going to have to figure out because Trump does not sound like a guy this morning that is simply a puppet for Netanyahu or simping around for Israel. No. He's saying, hey, these guys agreed to a deal. They broke the deal. And now we've got a situation where we have to figure out what to do about it hours after we said the 12-day war is over. So he is not a happy man this morning. And Trump can flex here on this. He can. He's got to remember, and he can remind both sides here, Iran, I can make your life very miserable. We saw that on Saturday. That was just a little preview of what could happen. And Israel, listen, you guys need us. You do. Now, Israel can do a lot of this on its own, but let's just say they benefit bigly, as some might say. They benefit in a major way knowing that we are in their corner in most cases. And the last thing that Netanyahu wants to do or should want to do is tick off Trump at this moment in his country's history. So this is obviously now a new development to this story. I thought we'd be coming on this morning and getting to largely celebrate the fact that this thing has come to an end. But it looks like it has not, at least not yet. My guess is that Trump is going to be negotiating this deal while he's on Air Force One going to the Netherlands for the NATO summit this morning. But a lot of that obviously remains to be seen. He's on his way there, so we are unlikely to hear from the president unless we get some Truth Social posting in the next few hours. And we got a new one here. All right, so 51 minutes ago, we read this to you to start the show. Trump wrote in all caps, Israel, do not drop those bombs. If you do, it is a major violation. Bring your pilots home now. Donald Trump, President of the United States. 13 minutes ago, the president posting on Truth Social, Israel is not going to attack Iran. All planes will turn around and head home while doing a friendly plane wave to Iran. What is the friendly plane wave? Is that like when my girls look out the window and see the big city and start waving down? Is that what the friendly plane wave is?
Maverick's requesting permission to buzz the tower.
He says here, nobody will be hurt. The ceasefire is in effect. Thank you for your attention to this matter. I love that new ending to his post. Thank you for your attention to this matter. I get a kick out of that. And then in all caps, 8 minutes ago from President Trump on Truth Social, Iran will never rebuild their nuclear facilities. So he's telling both sides, knock it off, stand down, let's get this ceasefire going, and quit the nonsense. And in the words of the President of the United States, we basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard, they don't know what the bleep they're doing. And Trump is right now the adult in the room. Go figure. Yeah, Trump's not screwing around this morning. He is not a happy camper. We thought we'd be waking up today talking about the 12-day war, as it was dubbed, coming to an end, and the ceasefire firmly being in place. We wake up this morning and we find out that Iran and Israel both launched missiles at each other early in the hours of the perceived ceasefire. So there is no ceasefire. And the president is not really taking sides here. He's saying, I think they both violated it, meaning Israel and Iran. And now he has gone on to say what is going to be one of the most talked about sound bites of Donald Trump's second term in office. Here we go.
Iran violated the peace agreement and the ceasefire agreement. Do you believe that Iran is still committed to peace?
Yeah, I do. They violated it, but Israel violated it too.
Are you questioning if Israel is committed?
Israel, as soon as we made the deal, they came out and they dropped a load of bombs, the likes of which I've never seen before. The biggest load that we've seen. I'm not happy with Israel. You know, when I say, okay, now you have 12 hours, you don't go out in the first hour and just drop everything you have on them. So I'm not happy with them. I'm not happy with Iran either. But I'm really unhappy if Israel's going out this morning because the one rocket that didn't land, that was shot, perhaps by mistake, that didn't land. I'm not happy about that. You know what? We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing. Do you understand that?
We have just posted that clip on the KCMO Talk Radio Facebook page and Instagram page. You can see it there if you'd like to. That way you know this is not AI generated. This is not something that we just made up. No, that was the President of the United States early this morning as he gets set to leave for the Netherlands for a NATO summit, expressing his clear displeasure with both Israel and Iran for both, in his words, breaking the ceasefire. And he is right to be frustrated with both sides. Those, of course, insisting this guy is nothing more than a simp for Israel, well, they were proven wrong once again this morning. Trump is an independent thinker. He genuinely wants peace, I believe, for the entire region. And he's not just going to say, well, you know, Israel, they've got to make sure that, we're getting those nukes out of Iran. He's got to be looking at this and saying, hey, you're our ally. We did what you guys, in large part, I know, asked us to do. That was also in our best national interests over the weekend. And now he probably feels like Bibi kind of screwed him here on this whole deal. And he's not wrong to feel that way. So Trump's not a happy man. He has been posting on Truth Social this morning saying Israel is not going to attack Iran. He said, Israel, do not drop the bombs. If you do, it's a major violation. He added in all caps as well about Iran. Iran will never rebuild their nuclear facilities. So good for him. He's calling out both sides right now, which is what needs to happen in the wake of what happened in the early morning hours today. Meantime, J.D. Vance is having a ball on social media. 13 minutes ago, J.D. Vance just posted on X, I wonder if other VPs had as much excitement as I do, with a laughing emoji. I'm pretty sure the answer to that one, JD, is no. And you know what you signed up for as well when you took the gig. So JD is, as he has done these first few months, I think handled that position very well in what has got to be the toughest job, being Donald Trump's number 2. If you're JD Vance, that is like one of the all-time balancing acts that you've got to figure out. And JD Vance so far is doing it pretty damn well. So good for him on that front. Now, in the wake of last night's ceasefire, I was perusing some of the major news outlets, and I saw this at the top of Drudge Report. Now, we all know Drudge Report is a shell of what it used to be. It used to be basically a combination of conservative-leaning news stories. And Matt Drudge really used that Drudge Report to drive a lot of the narratives, especially on the conservative side of the aisle. Well, Drudge got out of the business shortly after Trump came along, and now it's a complete shell of what it used to be. It actually leans left. But I still like to go to it because I like to see how they're portraying the news. So in the wake of the ceasefire announcement last night, this was at the top of Drudge Report. It was linked to a story from USA Today. And the story read, could there be a military draft, ? Fears rise after U.S. bombs Iran. You got to be kidding me. Who is fearful of a draft after what happened on Saturday? Like, who in their right mind was following what happened with the men and women at a Whiteman Air Force Base here in Missouri? They watched them successfully bomb the nuclear sites. As far as we know, no citizens are harmed on either side of the equation. They do this precise, targeted attack. They set back their nuclear capabilities, at the very least, for years. And then they land back here in Missouri. And who in their right mind would come out of that news cycle and say, there's a draft coming back, John?
Well, you're right to ask the question. The answer is no one.
Yeah, except for USA Today, apparently.
I'm going to go ahead and write this in wake of the fact that the armed forces has already hit its goal for the year.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
And at a peak thing. Yeah, so I'm just going to ignore that.
I know.
Pretend like that doesn't exist. Say, gosh, we're going to have to draft people. Fears rise.
So usually,
Yeah.
I was taught this by somebody who does a lot of digital media. Usually when you see written headlines with a question, the answer to the question is usually no, but the headline is what drives you to click on the story. So it's a teaser that they give you, but typically the answer to the question will be no. And obviously, it took USA Today a long time to draw that very clear conclusion, but they write this whole story. Heightened tensions following the U.S.'s attack on Iranian nuclear facilities has brought up the possibility of a military draft to the forefront of the minds of many. So, right, who are many? Do the many exist? Or are the many just the many different people in the heads of the USA Today editors? That's what I'm trying to figure out. So they make up this, basically it's a made-up story, right? It's set with the premise of, well, you just don't know what's going to happen because many people are saying. They add here, in a June 22nd Truth Post, President Trump said he was open to a regime change in the country hours ahead of J.D. Vance and Marco Rubio, who said they did not want regime change. There are currently no bills before Congress to institute a draft. However, the Washington Post reported last year that influential former administration officials, as well as some GOP lawmakers, have publicly suggested a national service mandate. Here's what you need to know about a possible military draft. They could have just ended the article right after that and wrote the big word nothing across the story, but they elected not to do that. They took 500 words to basically say there's nothing there. A national service mandate is in no way a draft. Suggesting that maybe you do something like Israel where you have a national service mandate is not suggesting that we're drafting 18 to 25-year-old men to go into combat in Iran. And the fact that this is the kind of stuff that's being put out there by media outlets is such an embarrassment to the business.
I always question how many is many.
Yeah.
Right? If I'm standing here and there's a half a dozen people, I guess that's many. So,
yeah.
Right? Basically, it's saying the people that I know.
Yeah, the people that I talk to on my text thread. John in Grain Valley, what's up, my man?
Hey, Pete, it's not often that I have to answer your own question, but I'm going to dip my foot in that water. You know who thinks it? Sock puppets. Spineless sock puppets. People who get their information from TikTok. And if you really want to peel back that onion, and I use that term because eventually someone's going to cry, this is what the Democrats are going to do to win back the male vote. If I can scare you, and that's the Democratic theme, I must scare you. I must make you fearful, because if you vote for us, we will not make you fearful. We will take care of you. We will give you your Cheetos and your Xbox, and you'll live a good life in an alternative universe while you dye your hair purple and green. It is sock puppets. They need fear, constant fear. It doesn't matter. World War III, we're going to kill Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. We're going to do all these things because they've got to get somehow 20% of their vote back. The problem is, if you have a thinking brain, as most of your audience does, I've learned, they look at it and go just like John said, really? Many? How many is many? And it is. It's the people they talk to.
See,
nobody I know voted.
Here's what I would say, John, and I appreciate it, man. I actually don't think this will work for them. I think it would backfire tremendously if they think that they can win back young men by scaring them into this idea of a possible draft. Be my guest, try it, but I don't see anyone who would ever buy something like this at all, especially when you have recruiting numbers, as John noted, already reaching the 2025 goals with months to go in the fiscal year. Go figure. 913-408-7957. A national, by the way, a mandate to have some type of national service is not a bad idea. But even that, I don't see getting through Congress at all. It's too polarizing for too many people, right or wrong. On the text line, we were just telling you about this bizarre story in USA Today suggesting that the draft may come back because of what happened over the weekend, which is just beyond bizarre. I don't know how out of touch you have to be with the moment to think that the draft is coming back because we had a successful B-2 bomber mission where we destroyed 3 nuclear sites of the Iranians. But I guess there are more gullible people out there than I thought. But this came in on the text line. And it was, Pete, your last caller may be right. I was at a celebration of life this past weekend, saw a young man I had not seen in some time. When I asked how he was doing, the first thing he said was that he was worried about the government restarting the draft. I was stunned. I asked him, what in the world makes you think that? The conversation went on from there, but apparently those headlines that you were reading from USA Today might be getting the idea out there. I suppose if you only read headlines, then I guess anything's possible. Let's go to John in Kansas City. What's up, John?
Hey, I think regard to this draft business, I think the opposite is going to happen. I bet there's going to be young men beating down the doors to enlist.
Well, so far that's what we've seen. Give credit where it's due. I mean, we've already reached the goals for fiscal year 25 with still 4 months left in the year.
Yeah, there's going to be waiting lines, I think, now to get in. In fact, I'm 75 years old, and I want to join. After that performance of our boys
I hate to break it to you, John. They don't want you, buddy.
I understand. I'll go volunteer somewhere.
Hey, they don't want me, and I'm 40 years younger than you, so it's okay.
All righty.
All right, John. Thank you, my man. I appreciate you. Well, speaking of the men and women down at Whiteman, the president unloaded this morning on CNN, MSNBC for intentionally, in his words, stoking doubt about the obliteration of the Iranian regime's nuclear facilities. Here's what the president had to say.
I think it's been completely demolished. I think the reason we're here is because those pilots, those B-2 pilots, did an unbelievable job. And, you know, the fake news, like CNN in particular, they're trying to say, well, I agree that it was destroyed, but maybe not that destroyed. You know what they're doing? They're really hurting great pilots that put their lives in the line. CNN is scum, and so is MSDNC. They're all. And frankly, the networks aren't much better. It's all fake news, but they should not have done that. Those pilots hit their targets. Those targets were obliterated, and the pilots should be given credit. They're not after the pilots, they're after me. They want to try and demean.
That's great. That's President Trump about an hour ago as he was getting set to leave for the Netherlands and the NATO summit, saying, would you give credit where it's due to the men and women right here in Missouri at Whiteman Air Force Base who pulled off an incredibly difficult and successful mission over the weekend? Is that too much to ask? And he also noted they're not really after them. They're after him because they can't give him an ounce of credit. That's what this ultimately comes down to, right? They just can't give the guy an ounce of credit. But I find it very difficult for some of these folks because they've got to change the flag in front of their house, every month now. Went from the Ukrainian flag, they were waving the Mexican flag a couple of weeks ago, and now they got to get the Iranian flag up.
Lesotho flag.
That's right, Mark. Nice job. Trump is ticked, man. He's dropping bombs, and I don't mean real bombs. I'm talking F-bombs. This morning, the president, before he got on Air Force One and departed for the Netherlands for a NATO meeting, he was not happy with what happened in the overnight hours. If you're just catching up, of course, last night, a ceasefire was announced between Iran and Israel. And the president was rightfully taking a victory lap over this, calling it a 12-day war. Well, as of now, it looks like we're at least into day 12 and a half, maybe 13. It remains to be seen. But you had both sides who ended up launching missiles and drone strikes at each other in the overnight hours. So we went to sleep and we thought, great, ceasefire's here. We woke up and we got on the air this morning at about 6 o'clock and we found out that that was not the case. So both sides are obviously blaming the other side. The president doesn't really care. He's not having it, and he's ticked off with both sides right now, Israel and Iran, and here's what he said.
Iran violated the peace agreement and the ceasefire agreement. Do you believe that Iran is still committed to peace?
Yeah, I do. They violated it, but Israel violated it too.
Are you questioning if Israel is committed?
Israel, as soon as we made the deal, they came out and they dropped a load of bombs, the likes of which I've never seen before. The biggest load that we've seen. I'm not happy with Israel. You know, when I say, okay, now you have 12 hours, you don't go out in the first hour and just drop everything you have on them. So I'm not happy with them. I'm not happy with Iran either. But I'm really unhappy if Israel's going out this morning because of one rocket that didn't land, that was shot, perhaps by mistake, that didn't land. I'm not happy about that. You know what? We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing. Do you understand that?
He really leaned into that F word, too, there. He didn't, just slip it in. He just dropped it. Full-blown. They don't know what. He even slowed down his cadence a little bit there. Did you notice that? We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long, and then he slows down, and so hard. And he emphasizes every word on the back end, that they don't know what the bleep they're doing. Don't worry, Mark. I'm not going to say it. Don't worry, man. I'm not Trump. I got to play by the rules here. The FCC rules.
Just being safe.
Yeah, Trump can't get in trouble with the FCC. He appoints the chairman, right? I don't have that kind of sway. So I got to actually play by the rules here. Don't worry. I'm not going to get anybody in trouble. I promise you that. But he's right to be fed up with both sides on this deal. He has done and largely been the best ally to Bibi Netanyahu in recent memory. Certainly, Biden and Obama were not nearly as friendly with Bibi and we're not nearly as much of an ally to Bibi as Trump has been during his first term and his second term. We pull off this incredible mission with our men and women from Whiteman here over the weekend, and now, Israel is breaking their ceasefire as well. And whether or not there's a reason for it, they'll always claim that there is a reason for it. Trump is right to say, hey, you guys aren't making me look good here. Okay, I want out. I'm wasting some political capital on this. He believes it's the right thing to do. I genuinely believe that. He understands the importance of it, but he is, putting some political capital at risk here, right? So the last thing he needs is for Bibi, hours after a ceasefire, to be like, yeah, about that ceasefire, Mr. President, I had to do what I had to do here. I had to fire some missiles out overnight, and my bad. It's like, hold on a second here. So then after Trump drops that, he's going throwing haymakers on Truth Social as well, saying in all caps, Israel, do not drop those bombs. If you do, it's a major violation. Bring your pilots home now. He then added, Israel is not going to attack Iran. All planes will turn around and head home while doing a friendly plane wave to Iran. You got to love I don't know where he comes up with this stuff. They'll do it. I mean, the guy is literally trying to get peace in the Middle East, and he somehow includes a line about making sure there's a friendly plane wave to Iran from the Israelis as they're bringing their pilots home. He adds, nobody will be hurt. The ceasefire is in effect. Thank you for your attention to this matter. That might be my favorite Trump line of all time. The fact that he's signing these posts with a thank you for your attention to this matter is just, I don't know why, I'm just getting such a kick out of it. Because it's serious, but it's also somewhat facetious and comical and sarcastic in some ways. It's just funny. So he just posted this 11 minutes ago on his Truth Social. The president writing here, quote, heading to NATO, where at worst, it will be a much calmer period than what I just went through with Israel and Iran. He adds, I look forward to seeing all my very good European friends and others. Hopefully, much will be accomplished. Has anybody asked in his words, very good European friends what they think about seeing him? I mean, they should welcome him and embrace him with open arms. But it seems like, they have a severe case of TDS as well, just like many in this country do. Go figure. But Trump obviously is not a happy guy this morning. He has a right to not be happy with how things played out overnight. And he also had this to say during a press conference. It wasn't really a press conference, just a Q&A before he got on Air Force One this morning. Here's President Trump.
I don't think so, but I'm not happy that Israel's going out now. There was one rocket that I guess was fired overboard. It was after the time limit, and it missed its target. And now Israel's going out. These guys got to calm down. It's ridiculous.
These guys got to calm down. It's ridiculous. Yes, it is ridiculous. He's right. And he wanted no part of making this thing any worse than it needed to be. And I think deep down, Trump is probably more annoyed with Israel here. Not because they're the worst of these two actors. They're obviously not. It's Team Israel all the way over Team Iran. But it's kind of like in your personal life. When you get let down by somebody that you put all your trust in, somebody that you care about, somebody you consider a friend, it's worse than when you get screwed over by somebody that you knew would screw you over at some point, right? Somebody you didn't care about, somebody you didn't want to be around anyway. And that is where Trump, I think, is at right now in what happened in the overnight hours. And it's very understandable.